Hi everyone, welcome back to Eye of the Star Story, and today we're talking about Skeleton Crew, episode 5. So let's go and jump right into it. First off, we start on Manhattan, and we start with the parents, and we see that Wim's dad is working at his cubicle area, and then we see Neil's mom be like, we need to get the message through, here. And she's like, but we need an access code for the barrier. And he's like, well, I don't have clearance to get it. And she's like, and she hands him this device she made, at least I think she made it. And she's like, and she's like, here, this will get you in. And so he puts it in his terminal, and it accesses it all. And then we have a security droid come over, and he gets the stuff. And so the security droid comes over, and he's like, there's a power surge. And he's like, there's no power surge. And he's like, I still need to check. So he's like, get out. And we see that he hides the thing behind his back. And the security droid's like, what are you hiding? I need to see it. And he's like, I'm not hiding anything. He's like, show me your hands. And so he shows one hand, and then he shows the other. Like, it's like literally parenting. I love it. Like, I think it's so funny seeing that. Be like, show me your hands. And then the security droid just like sighs. He's like, show me both of them at once. Like, that was super funny to me. He like, is like, fine. We see that he gets caught. He gets taken to Fern's mom's office, which I don't remember her name, so I'm sorry about that. And we see her be like, shut off. Forget everything you just remembered. Shut off. So she's like, I told you not now. I told you not to this. We have to do this the correct way. And Wim's dad is like, well, we can do this. We can send them a message without getting any coordinates of where Manhattan is. So it looks like either A, the parents don't even know the coordinates, or B, they know the coordinates and they can't say them because they could get in get in a lot of trouble. I'm honestly thinking it's B. I feel like they don't know they know the coordinates, but they aren't allowed to say anything about them. So I'm like, that's kind of odd. These are your kids, and you're like, well, we don't exactly need to tell them the coordinates. They'll be fine. I'm like, these are your kids. Excuse me? So that was kind of insane to see. And then we jump over to the kids, and we jump to them tying down SM-33 and be like, that should be fine. And I'm like, no way, that's gonna hold him. Like, that's just not going to work. And so then, KB's like, I rerouted his memory circuit so he shouldn't overload. And Neil's like, are you sure? Like, last time he woke up, he tried to pull us limb from limb. Are you sure? And Fern's like, yeah, he'll be fine. And I thought that was, like, funny, seeing that. And I especially also loved seeing, seeing Fern and Jod fight like that. Like, no, you turn him on. No, you turn him on. No, you're scared. No, you're scared. And I was like, Fern, like, whenever Fern, like, looked back, she's like, KB, you turn it on. I'm like, and KB just gives this, like, really, like, what do you mean I turn it on glare? Like, I had nothing to do with this. Like, I thought that was, like, funny. Like, I had nothing to do with this. What do you mean I'm doing it? And so we see that, she turns him on. He's like, what do you want? And she's like, and Fern's like, where's that at? And then we see, Neil be like, make him promise that he won't hurt us this time. And he's like, I won't hurt you. That was the old captain's, orders. Captain Reynolds. And we see immediately Jod's like, Captain Reynolds? Or however you pronounce his name. So I'm really sorry, I'm terrible with names. So whenever he's like, and he it start going on about this whole spiel, and the kids are like, okay, whatever. And so SM-33 is like, I don't remember the coordinates, but they should be in his lair up in the, Skull Mountain. And so he's like, and so Jod's like, can you take us there? And he's like, yeah, of course. So he gets them there, and he's starting telling all these kids these stories. He starts telling all these kids these stories, and I noticed that Wim was in there, and I was like curious. I'm like, this is weird. Like, Wim is the one that loves adventure. He's that kind of kid. Like, where is he? Like, where is he whenever all these stories are getting told about different adventures? I was like, that's odd. And so we find out not too much later, whenever Jod's like, okay, enough stories. And they're like, but we want to hear. And so then we see him go into the back of the area where he finds Wim. And I have to say this, Jod is terrible with parenting advice, or kind of any advice. Whenever he's like, what's going on, kid? And Wim's like, nothing. And he like shoves the data pad away. And then we see that Jod sees him crying, and he's like, oh boy. And we see that we see that Wim's going on about how he misses his family and how he misses his mom. And Jod's like, I'm sure you'll see them again at some point. And he's like, not my mom. And then he's like, you know what, kid? Just forget about all of it. Forget about your anxieties. Forget about your fears. Forget about your parents. I'm like, Jod, wow. I was like, okay, dude, that's not something we say. And that was like, wow, okay. And then we see that they arrive at the spa, and they're greeted by like, this is a very welcoming planet, everyone's welcome, no fighting. But if you break those rules, you will be destroyed. And then we see that they land, and he dresses these kids up as these elders. I'm like, there's some very short elders. Okay, but they are very short. And we see that they get this like nice room and all that, and he's like, he's like, empty your pockets. And they're all like, why? And he's like, because I'm gonna need all their Old Republic credits that you guys are hiding. And he uses that to get themselves safe passage like into the spa area. And then we see that he runs into one of his old friends, or old people he used to work with. And we find out he goes by another name. Like, dude, how many names are you going by? And even the kids are they're just like, why does he have so many names? Like, I'm wondering the same thing, like, when are we going to hear the end of it? And we see that bounty hunter does call in his bounty, understandably. The pirates arrive, and but we see that KB, whenever they're like, well, we have to go search the different areas to find where the entrance is to his like little cave area, or not his cave area, his like hideout area. And KB's like, I can't go to the spas, and Fern's like, what, are you nervous about resting or something? And she's like, no. And so I'm like, why was she nervous? Like, I'm kind of like curious about that. Like, why was she? And then we see that she does end up like more of like getting like caught and all that by the guards, that she like sprays mud all over them. Like, I love that. That was a great idea. And we see that SM-33 was walking around with Fern and all that. And we see that right before they go down and start looking, we see that John gets really annoyed at them because they're like, trying to figure out what they're doing. And he's like, there are pirates after us. Do you want to live or not? Do you want to find this or not? Like, he's just fed up at this point. And so we see that they get to the hideout, they get to the point, and it's like an acid-covered area. And I was like, oh my word. And they're like, and KB translates it that it's like something very valuable, and she's like, it's life. And John's like, Reynolds was a pirate. He took life all the time. He didn't care. Like, that's not super important to him. And they all think for a second, they're like, treasure. And they're like, but we don't have any more of those credit, like, we don't have any more of the Republic credits left, or whatever they call them. I don't remember what they are. And so he's like, and so he pulls one out using the Force, and it just hovers there, and they have this, like, really cool, like, music, like, something big is about to happen. And then he throws it into the acid, and, like, nothing happens for a second. I'm like, wow, like, you know, you're hyping this all up, and then it's just, like, nothing. And then we see that it does actually happen, and the acid drains. And then we see them go into the lair, and they're looking for the captain's, like, log, so that way they can find out and all that. They find it after, like, this, like, roast that looks like, and Neil found it, he's like, all the other food over here looks rotten, but this roast looks like it's, like, fresh. And so we see that Neil, like, gets put on that chair, and I'm like, oh no, something bad is about to happen. And we see that there was, like, a booby trap, and I was like, oh my word, there was. But right before that, we see that Wim found a lightsaber, which is awesome, especially because earlier this week we were told that there would be lightsabers in Skeleton Crew, so I was, like, really curious on when it would be happening. And it happened on this episode, which was awesome getting to see that. And then we see that after they find the captain's log, that he's like, well, is there treasure on Aten? And he's like, yes. And he's like, okay, let me see the person. And so he starts saying it. He's like, Aten is the last Old Republic mint. And Wim's like, what's a mint again? And Fern explains that it's like infinite money. Like, that's something that you do to make money. And she's like, it's infinite. And so they're like, wow, Aten really is the infinite treasure. Like, it really does have infinite treasure on it. And then we see that Jod is, like, going on, and Fern realizes that something's wrong. And at that moment, too, I'm like, oh, no, don't do it, don't. And I knew that something was wrong, too. And he's like, and they're like, we have a deal. You know, you get a fair pay. If you get us home, we don't do this. We don't need to do this right now. And I was like, oh no. And I didn't like Jod, honestly, from the beginning. Like, I'm like, I don't trust him at all, especially with all his different names, and with how many people are being like, even, like, the bounty hunter that they just ran into at the spa, they're like, don't trust him, kids. I'm like, I don't trust him. I haven't trusted him from the beginning. And then he's like, I want to invoke the right to fight the captain. And so SM33's like, the right has been invoked. And Fern's like, SM33. She's like, and he's like, sorry, there's nothing I can do. It's been invoked. And we see that she tries to fight him, but he uses the force to block her item and then gets her into a chokehold and is like about to her. I'm like, wow! And then Wim stands up and remembering what Jod told him, because Jod told him to make those, to make his dreams a reality, kind of. So he grabs the lightsaber and Jod's like, this isn't one of your books. And he tries and he held it upside down, hit his feet, like about hit his feet, didn't hit his feet, but about hit his feet, causes the lightsaber to go skidding across the floor. And then him running to the other kids too. And Fern's like, fine, I resist, I'm done. And so he, like, lets her go. And so the first order that he gives SM33 is to lock the kids up and then to get to AT-ATN. And we see that the kids use that booby trap that I was talking about earlier with the chair, to get themselves to safety. And then we see that the episode ends by Jod picking up the lightsaber and igniting it. Like, okay, wow. But I was not expecting how that episode was going at all. I was not expecting that. I knew that I couldn't trust Jod at all. Like, from the beginning, I was like, I don't trust him. Like, I just don't. I never have. And so immediately where he did that and it started, like, getting, like, kind of quiet and tense, I'm like, oh, no. And I felt so bad because SM33 is like, I'm sorry, kids. And I was like, oh, my word, no. Like, that was just not what I was expecting at all from that episode. Overall, that episode's gonna get a 10 out of 10 because it was really good. It was really suspenseful. It was really different. I really liked how everything was done. I'm still surprised the parents are even like the parents are like, well, we can send them a message without like revealing AT-ATN's coordinates. I'm like, these are your kids. Like, what do you mean? Like, I would reveal the coordinates in a second, but these are your kids. Like, I would reveal the coordinates if those are my kids, but you're like, well, what if we send them a message where we won't say anything at all? I'm like, these are your kids. What do you mean you don't want to say anything? And the way that, like, Jod is just... Yeah, and especially after the other bounty hunter told the kids to not trust him, I'm like, I don't trust him anyway, so the fact that another person is telling them not to trust him, it's just making things worse. And after hearing that he had another name, I'm like... But yeah, that was Skeleton Crew Episode 5. Let me know down in the comments, what do you guys rate it? As I said earlier, I give it a 10 out of 10. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, God bless. Bye, guys.